What's up, my fellow Sambarians? So we have here today, obviously, Subaru Sambar. It is carbureted, it is silver, and it is a JA with a classic front end. Very cool Sambar. So quick little backstory. This was freshly imported from Japan from an individual in Utah. And so this question comes up all the time. Can I get something sent to the port at Tacoma and then you pick it up in Tacoma port and then take it to your place and service it? Yes, I offer all those services: quick pickup and then service, obviously, straight from the port, if that is what you would like to have done, so it's ready to go when you get it. And so this guy wants it all done before it goes all the way down to Utah. And it's kind of a good thing, because this thing's been kind of a nightmare since the very beginning. And it's crazy to think that the guys in Japan were like, yeah, it's ready to go. Go ahead and just drive it. When I can give you a list of reasons why this thing was not ready for the road. Yeah, there's a lot of obvious ones. They're old, there's lots of rust, blah, blah, blah. But this was beyond that. This was attempted to be repaired, and basically repaired good enough to get it onto the boat and off the boat, and then best of luck to you, brother. Yeah, so it's kind of a good thing that he had it sent to me so I could go over it, and since I work on sandbars so much, I was able to kind of get everything how it was supposed to be and roadworthy, because it wasn't roadworthy. And I know there's horror stories all the time. Again, they're 25 years old, blah, blah, blah. That's a risk you're willing to take. Yes, it is a risk that you are taking when you buy something from auctions in Japan. But some risks are actually, I feel like, lied about so that they can get the truck out of Japan and off to the next person. And I feel like that's the situation. So, again, real quick, they did a complete engine swap from an entirely different Sambar. And the reason I know that is because parts are in different locations, so they obviously took everything off and tried to put it back together again quickly. The valve cover and the oil pan are not the same for this engine. You have a valve cover with 2 vents and a oil pan with no vents. Now, if you have a valve cover with 2 vents, you have 1 vent going to the oil pan. So the crankcase can vent. Now, there's no vent on this oil pan, but we have a valve cover with 2 vent tubes. So 1 vent tube was just going to nothing, and then one was going to the airbox. So that was already a first indication. The pickup points where you would hook onto the engine, one was actually located in a different spot entirely. So I was like, that was a red flag. And then just kind of going over everything, vacuum lines were like completely in the wrong locations, which made it idle very erratic. The air conditioning vacuum lines were in the wrong location. So what was happening is it was thinking the AC was running all the time when it wasn't. So then when you turned on the AC, it actually almost killed the engine because it couldn't keep up. So I had to, I went through everything, and since I kind of have a really, really good idea of how things are supposed to go, I put it all back in the right locations. The crank pulley was actually really bent, so the whole truck would vibrate. So if you were going to drive this thing for long periods of time with a bent crank pulley, I think that's what I just said, that vibration is going to transfer all the way down your crankshaft and wear out bearings. And so, I mean, granted, if this guy did take it, who knows how long the main bearings or the rod bearings or any of that stuff would have lasted with a really bent crank pulley. So again, thank goodness I had a crank pulley, so that smoothed out. And so I had to rebuild the old carb because the old carb was definitely not working as it should. So there was a lot of things I had to do to get it ready. So thank goodness he had it come to me. Otherwise, I can't imagine the headache this guy would be going through just to try to get it to a normal operating level. So yesterday, I went to change all the motor mounts on it, front and the 2 backs, and I moved it into my little pad here, and there's coolant everywhere, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what now? So there's actually a plastic tee on the carbureted ones. There's a plastic tee underneath the carburetor that your coolant lines run in and then out and it's obviously cracked or it's old plastic. So that went bad. So again, thank goodness it's here and I can fix it. Or otherwise, you know, who knows? This could have been a situation where he was driving it, wasn't paying attention, overheated, and just destroyed the engine. So it's just, you know, I'm not saying this to scare you away from buying stuff in auctions. This is just, you know, be careful when you buy stuff in auctions. You really kind of never know what you're going to get. And even though they said this thing's good to go, oh, and that was another thing. There was over 5 quarts of oil in this engine. This thing holds under 3 quarts of oil. So again, why so much oil in the engine? And it was so bad, it was filling up the airbox because the oil had to go somewhere. So just another insane thing. But regardless, just be, you know, fully aware that you could absolutely get a turd from auctions, or you could get something really good. And in my luck of importing cars, I've had pretty good luck, I feel like. So that's not to say it won't change at some point, but I usually, you know, there's certain things I'm looking for, and it's the ones that almost sound too good to be true that are, there's a reason why they're wanting it to leave the island of Japan. they want to get rid of it. So anyways, I'm going to be replacing that T underneath the carburetor to clean up this coolant leak, and I thought I would just show a video because this is going to be an issue that's going to come up. And I do have these T's on my website. They're genuine Subaru parts from Japan, and so you could obviously put a, you know, a brass T in there. You could do anything you want, but for the sake of the video and me doing things as it should be done, you know, I don't want to go outside of the limits of what the truck had, which that's not to say you can't do your own T. It's just a T. I'm just going to replace it with the OEM part, because if this one lasted this long, we should be getting another 25 to 30 years out of another T. So anyways, let's long intro. But yeah, I am going to actually deliver this to the guy in Utah. I'm going to tow it down there on a trailer and deliver it to him. Just, I thought that would be, you know, fun to service it and then actually deliver it to him. So yeah, that trip's going to take a couple days. It's like 900-ish miles down there. So 800-ish miles or so. And he got quotes for delivery. So I'm right in those quotes of delivery, which I calculated with gas. I'm gonna make maybe 50 bucks on the whole thing. So it's certainly not worth the money to do it, because all that money I'm gonna get paid to do it is going right to gas, because I'm towing it down there with my motorhome, so I don't have to get a hotel or anything. I can just sleep in my motorhome, which is not the most fuel efficient way to do it, but I feel like it's good that I, you know, kind of meet some of you guys that I'm working on these cars. So I am going to deliver it to the dude in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I want to make sure it's good, because obviously I don't want to get down there and be like, oh shoot, well, peace, best of luck to you, brother. So yeah, I'm gonna make sure it's good before we go. So everything's pretty much done. It was gonna be done yesterday when I did all the mounts, until we found a bunch of coolant. So yeah, let's get to it. So essentially, that you can see that guy right there, there's a T, 3 lines. That's dripping coolant. So I had my bore scope, went down there, and I could definitely see it was dripping coolant, and enough to be getting everywhere. Even on my patitos if they were underneath the car. And that's freaking how much oil was blowing back into the box. That's crazy. This thing was just so full of oil. So anyways, we're going to take everything off, remove the carburetor, install the new T, make sure we don't leak, and it will get, it'll be ready to send back to Salt Lake City, Utah. Let us take the carburetor off again. Okay, so let's slide the carb out. There it is. Here is our infamous T. I have not had one go bad before, so this is actually the first time. But it's a common issue, especially now. These things are getting older by the year. and parts are getting brittle. So just like I said, now's a good time to do your thermostat, because here's your thermostat. How easy is it to get to the thermostat now? Super easy. Inspect, here's your thermostat housing. Kind of inspect stuff, you know, inspect your inlet to the water pump, kind of just make sure, but it's definitely all wet, so we're leaking here. So yeah, let's go ahead and replace that thing. Yeah, so I just went to carefully, man, there goes all our coolant. Dang it. Come on, quit. Man, that sucks. But yeah, I just went to pull it apart and it just broke, so it was time to go. All right, let's get this tea in here. Kind of got it started. Let's get the one little one on there. Very good. Get our hose clamps on there. Hose clamp on there. Actually, I'd kind of turn them out of the way so they don't hit the carburetor. Let's go ahead and get our carburetor mounted back up. Carburetor mounted back up, and then we'll do a bleed and a coolant fill. All right, this is my little trick. I take a tiny bit of dielectric grease, just put it in the little slot that it goes on the upper portion, on the bottom portion, just a tiny bit, just enough for it to hold the gasket in place. And before you say, why don't you use gasket sealer? I don't want to use any gasket sealer because all it does is make for a future headache to remove it. This stuff is one and done. Plugged in. Don't forget to plug in back our solenoids. That's very, muy importante. I know I've done that a couple times where I forgot to replug that in. All right, so all our plastic covers are on, all our hoses are connected. Everything's good. So now what we need to do is bleed it, because we have a ton of air in it because we just drained a bunch of coolant. And that is going to be this guy. Come here. This nipple right here. I'm going to see if I can find a hose to connect to it so we can run it outside. But that's where we're going to start draining our coolant from. Okay, so I'm going to kind of show you. Typically there's a hose that comes off this little back little nipple here. Since there is not one because they didn't reinstall it, usually has like a green cap at the end of it. I have my own little line run so I can put a bucket down there. I have the front end up higher than the back, got it jacked up a little bit. I have my funnel ready. I'm gonna start putting coolant in it, and then it's gonna push all the coolant to the back, and then once we stop getting air, then it means we can run it and then bleed it some more. So I have that already full. Then I'm gonna come back here, take my jug. We're gonna start letting it come out of the top here, and then it's gonna come back into my jug, and then we'll just keep refilling it. But that's how we're gonna get the bubbles out until it stops now, and then we'll run it and get the extra bubbles out. So just, you know, I'm letting it go. We're dumping coolant. Once we're solid like that, I'm gonna plug it back up, and then we're gonna run it. And then we're gonna do this again, because right now we have the initial air bubbles out, but once we run it, then it stirs everything up, and then we will need to then continue to bleed it to make sure we have it fully good, and run the heater at the same time. Okay, so heater's on. Defrosters, of course, because that's how we gotta check for hot air. Starting to work some bubbles out. I will open this back up here in a second, and then we'll see if any more air comes through the lines. Patitos. And then, yeah, we'll just keep letting it idle and run till it gets warmed up and the thermostat opens up, and then really lets everything start flowing. But that's obviously not going to be for a while because we're cold. So yeah, it takes a little bit of time. You can't rush the cooling bleeding process. You rush it, you're gonna run into issues and overheat your engine. So just take your time. Always try to overbleed it instead of underbleeding it, because all it takes is a little bit of air and you got yourself an overheating engine, and you could literally blow a head gasket or warp your head, all from just being impatient. So take your time. I'm gonna try to get some more air out back here. And there you have it, folks. No more leaking, coolant tea. Fully bled. So like I said, take your time. I'm just gonna let it idle the heater on for, I don't know, 30 minutes or so, just to make sure we get all the air out. We're blowing super hot air, so we're good there. But yeah, that's how you replace the T. I do have those on my website, so if that's something that you need to do, that should be helpful. Get a carb gasket set to the intake manifold so you can replace that just in case. Do your thermostat at the same time if you haven't done that, since it's open. I mean, heck, even rebuild your carburetor while you're at it if you're in there, because it might just need it. But anyways, that's how you replace that T. Super, super easy, and can solve a huge problem if it's bad. But cool, thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe, like, all that fun stuff if you would like to. It helps me out a lot. And check out the website, okgarage.com, if you need anything. And I will see you guys all on the next one, which will probably be something, maybe delivering this guy to Utah. Do a little road trip. All right, see ya.